It's easy to forget in the wake of Trump's arraignment just like a week ago in that other case that he has many other cases coming up in the near future. And one of the most significant and the most, it would seem like from a PR position, the most damaging in terms of how it looks is the lawsuit that Carroll has lodged against Trump. If you're not familiar, Carroll accused Mr. Trump of attacking her in a Fifth Avenue department store dressing room back in the mid 1990s. That trial is actually set to start just next week, actually, in the US District Court in Lower Manhattan. Now, Trump would love to be there. He really would, but he doesn't think he should. And it's not about him. He does want to be there. He's not scared or embarrassed or anything like that. But he has a concern, and it's a very selfless concern laid out by Joseph Tacopina, who says that Mr. Trump wishes to appear, but according to his lawyer, he noted that when Trump appeared in Manhattan State Supreme Court for his recent arraignment, Franklin D. Roosevelt Drive was shut down for a significant period while he was traveling. Remember CNN's like minute by minute coverage. And so that would just be bad for traffic. And so he doesn't want to like inconvenience people. So he's just not gonna go. He's gonna stay in Mar-a-Lago. It's really just that. It's nice of him though, Jessica, because the traffic is really rough there. It's constant gridlock. And he doesn't want to be a part of the problem for the first time in his life. What do you think?
So I guess the whole Trump campaign's canceled then, because whenever he has a rally, he brings the motorcade. So I guess if you don't want to bring traffic to many cities across America, just call the whole thing off.
Maybe call the whole campaign off entirely, But anyway, there is a response already in from this letter that was sent to the judge by the legal team for Carroll, who says the notion that Mr. Trump would not appear as some sort of favor to the city of New York and that a jury should be instructed as much taxes the credulity of the credulous. Mrs. Kaplan, the lawyer, who's not related to the judge, by the way, they do have the same name, but they're not actually related, noted that some of the nation's highest profile cases, including some involving terrorism, had been tried in Manhattan's federal court, which she added was, quote, fully equipped to handle any logistical burdens. If the former president decided not to appear, she added, the jury may draw whatever inferences it chooses, and Mr. Trump has no right to a judicial endorsement of his flimsy excuse. Basically, he wants to not go, but he wants the judge to like, I don't know, like back him, like support him, be like, oh, but this isn't suspicious at all. The fact that he doesn't want to have to look his accuser in the eye, that's not a bad thing at all. Don't worry about it. The lawyer went on to argue that Mr. Trump's position was, quote, especially difficult to credit in light of his own recent activity, noting that in recent weeks, he had attended a UFC event, spoke at the NRA's annual meeting, and appeared for deposition in the New York Attorney General's lawsuit against him, his adult children, and the Trump organization. He's even scheduled a New Hampshire campaign event for April 27th, quote, in other words, in the middle of the trial in this case. Anyway, like again, it's so obviously fraudulent. He goes to places and wrecks their traffic all the time. This is one of the sorriest excuses. This is the dog ate my homework of not wanting to face your accuser.
Literally, yes. Literally, yes. It's funny that he wants the judge to, I don't know, instruct the jury. Hey, you may notice the defendant's not here, but just ignore that. It's an excused absence. He has a good reason to not be here. Let's just proceed as if he were. In what world would a judge do that? And Trump trying to appeal to the public by saying like, hey, we had to shut down a whole street. There's so much traffic in Manhattan. I'm gonna help you all out and just, I won't show up. Maybe I'll zoom in or something. That is asking for preferential treatment under the law because of his public stature. That is the least relatable action you can take under these conditions.
Yeah, exactly. That's the sort of thing that should bother his poor supporters. The idea that one of the society's elites would get away with not having to do what they would have to do, but they're used to it at this point. It doesn't seem to bother them. Yeah, like the idea that the judge should have to act as one of his lawyers and try to persuade the jury. Like you might have heard him on tape talking about like when you're a celebrity, you can grab him. And this seems to be an instance of him actually doing that, but don't let that bother you for some reason. Anyway, I would like to remind you that while we don't yet know if the judge is gonna buy this, and by the way, even if he doesn't get what he wants with the judge telling the jury to go easy on him or whatever, he still might not show up. Whereas Carroll says she's going to be there every day, which is obviously like if the allegations that she's made are true, is a very brave thing to have to, stare down someone who's done you individually and the country in general so much harm for so many years. But that's not the only bad bit of news in this case for Trump. You might recall that about a week ago, he requested a 1-month delay in the trial because there's so much media coverage and that could hurt people's opinion of him, so he wouldn't be able to have a fair trial. The judge said there was no justification for a postponement, noting that the news coverage was largely, though not entirely, quote, invited or provoked by Mr. Trump's own actions, which is totally right. But I will also warn you that in the past, as he has with every one of the many women who have accused him of sexual misconduct in a variety of forms, he has said some truly gross and insulting things about E. Jean Carroll, and I expect that those will continue. He has previously testified that she's a nut job and said that she enjoyed being sexually assaulted. He was so excited about this line that he had come up with that she enjoyed it, that he appeared under prior testimony to admit that he had done it. There's a little bit of wiggle room in the language, but he said she actually indicated that she loved it, okay? She loved it until commercial break. In fact, I think she said it was sexy, didn't she? She said it was very sexy to be raped. Didn't she say that? No, she did not say that. She said that she uses a different term because for some people there is a fetish of non-consensual sexual encounters. She has never, ever obviously said that she finds it sexy for her to be raped. But that's the sort of stuff, and of course he said what he always says, that if he was going to rape someone, she's not his type. That he has always felt is a great defense against accusations of sexual assault. So expect that this case, as with many of his others, including Stormy Daniels, is gonna get really gross. Any final thoughts, Jessica?
I guess if you've kind of confessed under oath in the past and you've pled not guilty, like, do you need to show up? Like, you've already confessed. It begs the question.
Really fast. If all of a sudden the country made sense and society made sense and our elected representatives were intelligent people of goodwill and everything was great, what would you make videos about? I'm just
You're
curious.
really testing the limits of my imagination, John.
Like if you didn't desperately have to do monetary policy and trying to get people to move in the progressive direction, what would you make videos about?
I would just make the silliest videos imaginable, like spring sprang in. I have a video about every single bird just being a different variation of a pigeon, like crows are goth pigeons. It would just be stuff like that.
How have I not seen this video? That is content made for me. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.